She thought she saved a stranger on the platform, but the woman she rescued was the Mafia boss's mother, and now she'd been ordered to become his wife. What happens next will change everything for both of them. And trust me, this story takes turns you won't see coming. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because you're going to want to see how this ends. Most people in Seoul whispered the same thing. Don't ever cross paths with Madame Pak Sang. The mother of Korea's most feared mafia boss wasn't just wealthy. She was a force of nature, iron-willed, sharp-tongued, fiercely protective. If you upset her, you upset the entire criminal empire under her sun. But on one chaotic morning, Madame Pak Sang crossed paths with someone nobody expected. A single mother in a coral blouse and worn jeans, hair pulled back in a tired bun, pushing a stroller with one hand while clutching her phone with the other. And that's the woman who saved her life. The Seoul train station was packed as usual, rush hour chaos, bodies pressing, announcements blaring. Madame Pak Sang stood near the platform edge, waiting for the express train. She was returning from the temple where she lit incense for her late husband every week. Her bodyguard, Mr. Choi, had stepped away to take a call. For just a split second, she was alone in the crowd. And that's when it happened. A shove from behind, hard, deliberate. Madame Pak Sang stumbled forward, her elegant shoes slipping on the platform edge. The train's headlight appeared in the tunnel, growing brighter, closer. People gasped. Someone screamed, but she couldn't regain her balance in time. And then a blur, a cry, a hand grabbing her arm with desperate strength, yanking her backward. They both crashed onto the concrete platform. Pain shot through her shoulder. A stroller rolled sideways, a baby's cry piercing through the noise. Madame Pak Sang gasped, shaking, disoriented. What happened? Mariana Elliott, 29. Single mother. Night shift worker at a packaging warehouse. Hair frizzy from exhaustion. Blouse wrinkled from her overnight shift. Breathed out in ragged gasps. Ma'am, are you okay? Her palms were scraped raw from the concrete. Her knee was bleeding. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her chest. But she had saved her. The train roared past, wind whipping their clothes, metal screaming against the rails. If Madame Pak Sang had fallen just 2 seconds earlier, Madame Pak Sang's eyes widened with delayed shock. That would have killed her. Instantly. You? Her voice trembled. You pulled me back? Mariana nodded, still catching her breath, crawling over to check on Zara, who was crying but safe in her stroller. I saw someone push you. You were falling. I just reacted. No hesitation. No thought for her own safety. No concern about leaving her baby motherless. Just pure instinct and heart. Madame Pak Sang stared at her savior, chest tight with shock and something else recognition. This young woman, this stranger, this exhausted single mother had risked everything to save an old woman she didn't even know. Sirens wailed. Station security rushed over. Men in black suits materialized from the crowd, phones already at their ears, barking orders, and through all the chaos, a black Mercedes screeched to a stop outside the station entrance. The man who emerged made half the platform go quiet. Sim Kang, the Korean mafia prince, Madame Pak Sang's only son. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a neck tattoo creeping up past his collar, sharp features, and eyes that could freeze a man's blood. The type of man people instinctively step away from, even when he's standing still. He cut through the crowd like a knife through silk, security guards parting instantly. He rushed to his mother, something close to panic breaking through his usually controlled expression. He dropped to one knee beside her. Mother, are you hurt? What happened? She pointed with a shaking hand at Mariana, who was now lifting Zara from the stroller, checking her daughter for injuries, whispering soothing words. She saved me. Sim Kang turned, and for a moment, just a moment, his cold, calculated world stopped spinning. Mariana stood there, baby Zara on her hip, the child's chubby hands gripping her mother's blouse. Mariana's coral blouse was dusty, her jeans torn at the knee, her natural hair escaping its bun in wild curls, scraped palms, bleeding knee, exhausted eyes that held both fear and fierce protectiveness. A random single mother who had just stepped into a dangerous world by accident. You? He asked quietly, his voice low and controlled. She blinked, adjusting Zara on her hip. Me? I? Yes. His eyes dropped to her bleeding knee. Then to her scraped hands, still trembling slightly as she held her daughter. His jaw clenched. You're injured. I'm fine, Mariana said quickly, instinctively. Really, it's nothing. You're bleeding. It's just a scrape. I need to get my daughter home. She's scared. But Madame Pak Sang had already struggled to her feet with her son's help. Her eyes locked on Mariana with an intensity that made the younger woman's breath catch. The old woman stepped forward, reached out, and took Mariana's free hand in both of hers with surprising firmness. What is your name, child? Mariana. Mariana Elliott. And this beautiful baby? Zara. My daughter. Mariana's voice softened, protective. She's 16 months. Madame Pak Sang's eyes misted over just for a second, before her expression hardened into something resolute. Determined. She turned to her son, still holding Mariana's hand. Sim Kang? She said, her voice carrying across the platform with absolute authority. This is the woman you will marry. The crowd went silent. Station security froze. Sim Kang's face showed the first crack of genuine shock anyone had seen in years, and Mariana's soul left her body. I what? Ma'am, I really appreciate what you're saying, but I need to get Zara home. Mariana took a step back, clutching her daughter closer. She's had a scare, and I've got work tonight, and nonsense. Madame Pak Sang's grip on her hand tightened not painfully, but with the kind of authority that didn't expect to be questioned. You're bleeding. Your child is frightened. You will come with us. We must properly thank you. That's really not necessary. It is necessary. The old woman's eyes softened, but her tone remained absolute. You saved my life. The least we can do is tend to your wounds and ensure your daughter is calm. Please, I insist. Mariana glanced around desperately. The men in black suits had formed a loose circle around them. Station security kept other passengers at a distance. Sim Kang stood silent, watching her with those unreadable dark eyes, and Zara, sensing her mother's tension, had started to whimper again. Just for a little while, Mariana heard herself say. Just to clean up. Madame Pak Sang smiled like she'd won a war. The drive to the Sang estate took 30 minutes through neighborhoods that got progressively quieter, cleaner, more exclusive. Mariana sat in the back of a Mercedes that smelled like leather and money, Zara on her lap, staring out the window at a world she'd only seen in magazines. Sim Kang drove, his mother beside him, occasionally glancing back, with that same knowing look. When the iron gates opened, Mariana's breath caught. The estate wasn't just a house. It was a compound. Traditional Korean architecture blended seamlessly with modern glass and steel. A central courtyard with a tree older than anything she'd ever seen. Manicured gardens, stone pathways, and guards subtle. But everywhere. This is where you live? Mariana whispered. This is home, Madame Pak Sang said simply. And now, you are a guest in it. Inside, everything had the quiet weight of generational wealth. Marble floors reflected soft lighting. Carved wooden panels told stories she couldn't read. Vases that probably cost more than her annual rent sat casually on tables. Mariana felt like she was tracking dirt through a museum. A kind-faced woman in her 50s approached and bowed. Madam, shall I prepare tea? Yes, Mrs. Seo. And please, find something to entertain this beautiful child. Madame Pak Sang gestured to Zara, who was staring wide-eyed at everything. Come, Sim Kang said quietly to Mariana. Let me look at those hands. He led her to a sitting room with low cushions and a view of the courtyard. Mrs. Seo gently coaxed Zara from Mariana's arms with a soft toy and soothing Korean words. Mariana wanted to protest, but exhaustion and shock had finally caught up with her. Sim Kang returned with a first aid kit, kneeling in front of her with surprising ease for a man his size. He took her hand carefully, like it might shatter, and began cleaning the scrapes with antiseptic. This might sting, he murmured. It did. But Mariana had survived worse. She watched his face as he worked, focused, precise, almost gentle. His hands were large, scarred across the knuckles, but steady. The baby's father, he said without looking up. Is he? Mariana's jaw tightened. Not in the picture. Just me and Zara now. He glanced up briefly, reading something in her expression. He didn't push, just nodded, and continued bandaging her palms with careful attention. From the doorway, Madame Pak Sang watched them with barely concealed satisfaction. That child needs a father, she announced to no one in particular. And you, Mariana, deserve a real family. Not whatever broken situation you've been surviving. Mariana's head snapped up. Ma'am, a wedding in spring would be lovely, the old woman continued, as if Mariana hadn't spoken. Cherry blossoms. Traditional ceremony, of course. But we can incorporate your customs as well. Zara will make an adorable flower girl. Sim Kang closed his eyes briefly, looking pained. What? I'm simply being practical. You're being impossible, he muttered in Korean, then switched to English. You can't just arrange someone's life in an afternoon. I just did. Madame Pak Sang smiled serenely. Mariana stood abruptly, panic finally overriding her politeness. This has been. Thank you for the bandages. But we really need to go. 1. You'll stay for dinner, Madame Pak Sang said. Not a question. I can't. You can. The old woman's expression softened genuinely for the first time. Please, Mariana. Humor an old woman who was nearly killed today. Let me feed you and your daughter. Let me thank you properly. Then if you wish to leave, my son will drive you home safely. Sim Kang met Mariana's eyes. Something passed between them. An understanding, maybe. Or a warning. Just dinner, he said quietly. No obligations. But as Mariana looked at baby Zara, now laughing as Mrs. Seo played peekaboo, and at the bandages on her own hands, and at the strange, dangerous, oddly gentle man kneeling before her, she had the sinking feeling that obligations had already been decided. She just didn't know by whom. Mariana's apartment had never felt smaller. 1 bedroom, a cramped kit yang, a bathroom where the door didn't quite close right, and a living space that doubled as Zara's play area and Mariana's occasional sleeping spot when the baby had a rough night. The walls were thin enough that she could hear her neighbor's television through the plaster. 3 days had passed since the train platform. 3 days of trying to convince herself it had been a bizarre, surreal blip in her otherwise ordinary struggle. She'd returned to her double shifts packaging warehouse at night, cleaning offices in the early morning. Zara stayed with Mrs. Yang downstairs, a grandmother who watched neighborhood kids for cash. It was almost working. Almost, until she came home at 7 p.m., Zara drowsy on her hip, and saw the black Mercedes parked outside her building. Mariana's heart dropped. The car was so out of place in this neighborhood that people were actively staring. And leaning against it, looking like he'd stepped out of a crime drama, was Sim Kang. He straightened when he saw her. Mariana, she stopped on the sidewalk, 10 feet away. How did you find where I live? That's not important. He took a step forward. She took a step back. He noticed. Stopped. We need to talk. We really don't. The incident at the station. It wasn't random. Her blood went cold. What? Someone pushed my mother. Deliberately. His voice was calm, controlled, but she could hear the fury underneath. We've been reviewing security footage. It was an assassination attempt. Mariana's grip on Zara tightened. That's terrible. But what does that have to do with... You were seen. He said it gently, like delivering bad news to someone fragile. Your face is on camera. You're connected to us now. And whoever tried to kill my mother knows you're the reason she's alive. The street seemed to tilt. Mariana's neighbor, Mrs. Yang, appeared in the doorway, saw the car, and Sim Kang, and quickly retreated inside. You're saying I'm in danger. I'm saying your daughter might be. Everything in Mariana went very still. Don't. I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. He took another careful step closer. Come stay at the estate. Temporarily. Until we identify who's behind this. Just until you're safe. I've been taking care of myself and Zara just fine. Against a criminal organization, his eyebrow raised slightly. With all respect, Mariana, you work 2 jobs and live in a building with a broken front lock. How exactly will you protect her if someone comes? The words hit harder because they were true. And he knew it. She could see it in his face, not cruelty, but the cold assessment of someone who dealt in reality, not reassurance. I don't need saving by another man who'll just leave, she said, voice shaking. Zara's father, he left when she was 3 months old, said he couldn't handle it. That being a father was too hard, that he'd found someone without complications. She laughed bitterly. So forgive me if I don't trust promises from strangers. Sim Kang was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. I'm not asking to save you. I'm asking to protect your daughter. Mariana's throat tightened. Zara shifted in her arms, mumbling sleepily. My mother would never forgive me if something happened to either of you because of our world, he continued. And honestly, neither would I. Why do you even care? Because you saved her life, simple. Direct. Because you didn't hesitate. Because you have a baby and you still threw yourself into danger for a stranger. He paused. Because that kind of courage deserves protection, not abandonment. Mariana looked at her building, the peeling paint, the broken buzzer, the window on the second floor that was hers. She looked at her daughter, innocent and vulnerable. She looked at this dangerous man who'd somehow found her address and was offering something that terrified her more than any threat, safety. But at what cost? Just until it's safe? She asked. Just until. And your mother? I'll handle her. A ghost of a smile. Or try to. Mariana closed her eyes. Felt Zara's warm weight against her chest. Made a decision that felt like jumping off a cliff. I need to pack. 2 suitcases. 1 portable crib. A diaper bag that had seen better days. That was everything Mariana owned that mattered. And it looked pathetic, sitting in the guest suite that was bigger than her entire apartment. The room they'd given her had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden, a bed large enough for 4 people, and an attached bathroom with marble everything. Mrs. Co had already unpacked Zara's things, replacing Mariana's worn onesies with soft designer clothes in pastel colors. There was a changing table that looked like furniture from a magazine, a rocking chair by the window. Even the baby bottles had been upgraded to some expensive brand Mariana couldn't pronounce. She felt like an imposter. Like someone would walk in any second and tell her there'd been a mistake. That people like her didn't belong in places like this. Zara didn't share her mother's anxiety. The baby was napping peacefully in the portable crib. Mariana had refused the ornate bassinet, needing something familiar, her little chest rising and falling with perfect contentment. Mariana stood at the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the garden below. That's when she saw Madame Paxang sitting on a stone bench beneath a cherry tree. Alone. Before she could talk herself out of it, Mariana slipped out of the room. The garden was warm in the afternoon sun, smelling of flowers she couldn't name. Madame Paxang looked up as Mariana approached, her severe expression softening. The baby is sleeping? Yes, ma'am. Mariana hesitated. I hope I'm not intruding. Sit. It wasn't a request. Mariana sat. You're uncomfortable here. I'm grateful, Mariana corrected quickly. For your hospitality, for keeping us safe. But you feel out of place. The old woman's eyes were knowing. Like you don't belong in this world. Mariana's silence was answer enough. Madame Paxang was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. I had a daughter once. Long before Sim Kang. A baby girl. Her voice softened to something almost fragile. She lived only 3 months. A heart condition the doctors couldn't fix. Mariana's breath caught. I'm so sorry. For years, I couldn't look at mothers with their babies. The grief was too sharp. The old woman's hands trembled slightly in her lap. But when I see you with Zara the way you hold her, protect her, love her so fiercely, I see the mother I never got to be, the life I never got to live. Tears pricked Mariana's eyes. Ma'am, you saved my life on that platform, yes. But you also gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Madame Paxang reached over and squeezed Mariana's hand. Hope. The sound of a child's laughter in this house, again. A second chance at family. Mariana couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she just held the old woman's hand and let the afternoon sun warm them both. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, the ceiling too far away. Mariana lay there until midnight, then gave up. She checked on Zara, still sleeping peacefully, and slipped out into the hallway. The estate was different at night. Shadows pooled in corners. Moonlight painted everything silver. She found herself drawn to the courtyard, to the sound of running water from a fountain she'd noticed earlier. Sim Kang was already there. He stood with his back to her, hands in his pockets, staring up at the moon. He'd shed his jacket, and she could see the full extent of the tattoo that crept up his neck, dragons and characters she couldn't read. Can't sleep either? His voice was quiet, unsurprised. Mariana stepped into the courtyard. The bed's too comfortable. Is that a strange thing to say? No. He turned, and in the moonlight, he looked younger. Tired. Sometimes comfort is harder to accept than struggle. She moved closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. Do you ever sleep? Not much. A ghost of a smile. My world doesn't really allow for it. That sounds exhausting. It is. He studied her face. But not as exhausting as raising a child alone while working 2 jobs. Mariana laughed softly, bitterly. I guess we're both tired then. They stood in comfortable silence, the fountain filling the space between words. Then Sim Kang said something that surprised her. Tell me about her. Zara. What's she like? So Mariana did. She told him about Zara's laugh. How she loved peekaboo. How she was starting to babble and reach for everything. How some mornings, seeing her daughter's smile was the only thing that made the exhaustion worthwhile. She sounds perfect, he said quietly. She is. Mariana paused. Would you like to meet her? I mean, properly? Now? She's sleeping, but... Mariana wasn't sure why she was offering this. Maybe because of the garden conversation, maybe because of the loneliness in his voice. You could see her. They moved quietly through the house to her suite. Zara lay in her portable crib, one hand curled near her face, her expression peaceful in sleep. Sim Kang stopped in the doorway, something shifting in his expression. She's beautiful, he whispered. Would you like to hold her? He looked at Mariana with genuine uncertainty. I don't want to wake her. You won't. She sleeps through everything. Mariana gently lifted Zara, who mumbled but didn't wake, and held her out. Support her head. Sim Kang took the baby with the careful precision of someone handling something infinitely precious and infinitely fragile. Zara settled against his chest, her small hand gripping his shirt. He stood there, barely breathing. This dangerous man transformed into something tender, and Mariana felt something in her chest crack open some protective wall she'd built after her ex-husband left. Watching Sim Kang cradle her daughter with such gentle care, seeing the wonder in his eyes, the softness in his dangerous face. Maybe, whispered a small voice she'd tried to silence. Maybe not all men leave. Thank you, Sim Kang said softly, still holding Zara like she might disappear. For trusting me with this. Mariana's voice was thick. Don't make me regret it. His eyes met hers over Zara's sleeping form. I won't. But just when Mariana starts to believe things might be different, danger is closing in faster than she knows. The calm is about to shatter. Stay with me, this story is far from over. And despite everything, her fear, her trauma, her certainty that trust only led to pain, Mariana found herself believing him. The hallway on the 2nd floor was empty when Mariana carried the laundry basket back to her room. Mrs. Seo had insisted on doing it, but Mariana couldn't just sit idle while people waited on her. It felt wrong. She was 3 days into her stay at the estate, and the discomfort of being served hadn't faded. She was halfway down the corridor when a man stepped out from a side room. Mid-40s, stocky build, with cold eyes and a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. She'd seen him before, always hovering near Sim Kang during meetings, always watching. He blocked her path deliberately. So you're the charity case, he said in accented English. Mariana's grip on the basket tightened. Excuse me? Playing the hero on a train platform. Very convenient. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Single mother, no money, no prospects. Then suddenly you're living in the boss's house wearing expensive clothes, being treated like family. Heat flooded her face. I didn't ask for any of this. They never do. He stepped closer. She stepped back. We've seen your type before. Women who see an opportunity and grab it. A wealthy man, a moment of vulnerability, and suddenly you're indispensable. The words cut deeper than they should have because they echoed her own fears, the voice in her head at 3 a.m. that whispered she didn't belong here. That she was using people. That she was exactly what he said. I saved his mother's life, Mariana said, voice shaking. That's all. And now you're living here with your baby. Playing house. Making the old woman attached. His voice dripped contempt. How long before you start asking for money? How long before... That's enough, Daejung. The temperature in the hallway dropped 10 degrees. Sim Kang emerged from the stairwell, his face carved from ice. The man Dae-jung turned. And for just a second, Mariana saw fear flicker across his features. Sir, you were just leaving. Sim Kang's voice was soft, deadly. And you're going to think very carefully about whether you want to remain part of this organization. I didn't mean, you questioned my judgment. You disrespected a guest under my protection. You made accusations without evidence. Sim Kang moved forward, and Dae-jung moved back. Do you understand what that means? The hallway went silent except for Mariana's racing heartbeat. Dae-jung bowed low, anger and humiliation warring on his face. Yes, sir, my apologies. Not to me. Sim Kang's eyes were black ice. To her. Dae-jung's jaw clenched. He turned to Mariana, bowed stiffly. My apologies, Miss Elliot. Then he disappeared down the stairs like a man fleeing execution. Mariana stood there, shaking, the laundry basket still clutched in her white-knuckled hands. Sim Kang approached carefully, like she might bolt. Are you all right? I'm fine, her voice cracked. I'm used to people thinking the worst of me. You shouldn't have to be. He gently took the basket from her hands, set it aside. What he said, none of it is true, isn't it? Mariana laughed bitterly. I'm a single mother with nothing. Living in your house, accepting your charity. You saved my mother's life. And now I'm reaping the benefits, right? That's what everyone thinks. That's what they'll always think. She wrapped her arms around herself. Maybe I should just go, take Zara and... No. The word came out harder than he intended. He softened his voice. Don't go. Why? She looked at him with two bright eyes. Why do you even care? Sim Kang was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made her breath catch. Because when I held your daughter the other night, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Peace. Like maybe I could be more than what this world made me. He met her eyes. And when I look at you, I see someone fighting just as hard as I am, just in a different war. Mariana's throat tightened. I need to tell you something, he continued. About the platform incident. We finished reviewing all the security footage. Her stomach dropped. And? It was sabotage. Someone paid a man to push my mother into the train's path. We've identified him, but he's disappeared, probably dead already, loose end tied up. His expression darkened. Whoever ordered it is still out there. Your mother's safe now, though. I mean, she's here, protected. She is. But Mariana... He moved closer, his voice dropping. They saw you. There's footage of you pulling her back. Of you with Zara at the platform. Your face, your daughter's face, they're on record now. The world tilted. What are you saying? I'm saying whoever wanted my mother dead now knows you're the reason she's alive. And they know about Zara. He watched her process this. Saw the terror flooding her features. The threat isn't abstract anymore. It's personal. It's immediate. Mariana's legs felt weak. She thought of her baby sleeping peacefully upstairs, unaware that somewhere out there, dangerous people knew her face. How do I protect her? Her voice broke. How do I keep her safe from people like that? You let me help. Sim Kang's hand brushed her arm, gentle but grounding. You stay here where there are guards, cameras, protocols. You let me do what I do best, which is protect what's mine. The words hung between them. Mariana should have corrected him, should have said she wasn't his. That Zara wasn't his. That they were just temporary guests in his world. But she didn't. Because part of her, the terrified, exhausted, desperate part, wanted to be someone's to protect. Wanted Zara to be safe in a way Mariana alone could never guarantee. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we'll stay. For now. Until it's safe. She looked up at him, eyes fierce despite her fear. But if you're asking us to stay, if you're claiming to protect us, then I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't lie to me. About the danger, about what's happening, about any of it. Her voice hardened. I've had enough of men who keep me in the dark and then disappear when things get hard. If we're in this, I'm in it with my eyes open. Sim Kang studied her face, this fierce, frightened, brave woman who'd saved his mother and was now trusting him with the most precious thing in her world. I promise, he said. No lies. No secrets about what threatens you and Zara. She nodded, some tension leaving her shoulders. Then she picked up the laundry basket, needing something to do with her shaking hands. I should check on Zara, Mariana. She paused, looked back. What Dae-jung said, none of that is who you are. You need to know that. Her smile was small, sad. I'm starting to. She walked away, and Sim Kang watched her go, already making a mental list of people who needed to be reminded what happened when someone threatened what belonged to him. In her room, Mariana set down the basket and went to Zara's crib. Her daughter slept peacefully, one hand curled by her face, completely unaware of the dangerous world closing in around them. Mariana stroked her baby's soft hair, her heart a knot of fear and fierce determination. I'll keep you safe, she whispered. Whatever it takes. I promise. Outside the window, shadows moved through the garden guards on patrol, protecting the estate's newest, most vulnerable residents. And somewhere in Seoul, enemies plotted in the dark. 2 a.m. Zara had woken fussy, probably from teething. Mariana sat in the rocking chair by the window, the baby nursing quietly, moonlight spilling across the nursery floor. The house was silent except for the usual sounds, distant footsteps of guards, the hum of the security system, the fountain in the courtyard. Then she heard something different. Footsteps. Too many. Moving with purpose but trying to be quiet. Whispered commands in Korean. Sharp and urgent. Not the casual patrol of guards, something else. Something wrong. Mariana's blood turned to ice. She pulled Zara from her breast, clamped a hand gently over the baby's mouth before she could cry out. Zara's eyes went wide. Confused. Mariana's heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst. The footsteps were getting closer. She moved fast. The closet deep, with blankets stored on the upper shelf. She grabbed them down, made a nest on the floor, laid Zara inside as gently as her shaking hands allowed. The baby whimpered. Shh, baby, shh. Mariana breathed, tears already streaming down her face. Mama's here. Stay quiet for Mama. She pulled the dresser. It was heavy, solid wood, and her arms screamed as she dragged it across the floor inch by agonizing inch until it blocked the closet door. Not perfect. Not enough. But something. The nursery door exploded inward. A man in black tactical gear and a mask kicked through like the lock was paper. He had a gun. His eyes swept the room, landed on Mariana, standing by the dresser. And she saw the exact moment he calculated. No baby visible. Woman alone. Quick elimination. He raised the gun. Mariana grabbed the lamp from the side table, heavy, ceramic, expensive, and hurled it at his head with every ounce of desperate strength she had. It connected. He stumbled. She didn't wait. She charged him, screaming, clawing, fighting like an animal because that's what mothers become when their children are threatened. She got one good hit to his throat. He backhanded her so hard she saw stars. She tasted blood. He grabbed her by the hair, yanked her up, gun coming around toward her face. The door exploded again. Gunshots, deafening in the small room. The intruder jerked, his grip releasing. Sim Kang was there, gun raised, face a mask of controlled fury. Behind him, 3 of his men. All armed, the intruder dove for the window, crashing through glass and disappearing into the night. One of Sim Kang's men gave chase. The others secured the room, but Sim Kang's eyes were wild. Searching. Where is she? His voice cracked. Where's Zara? He tore through the room like a madman, checking under the crib, behind furniture, terror breaking through his usual control. Mariana, where is she? Where's the baby? Mariana stumbled to the dresser, shoved it aside with strength she didn't know she had. She yanked open the closet door, reached into the blankets, and pulled out her daughter. Zara was screaming now, red-faced and terrified, but alive. Alive. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry, Mariana sobbed, clutching her daughter to her chest. Mama's here. Mama's here. Sim Kang was beside them in an instant. His hands shook as he reached out, touching Zara's head, her back, checking for injuries. His face, this dangerous, controlled man, showed raw, naked relief. She's okay, Mariana gasped. She's okay. She's not hurt. He pulled them both against him. One arm around Mariana, one hand cradling Zara's head. He was trembling, Mariana felt it, the rage and fear vibrating through him like a live wire. They came for her, Mariana whispered into his shoulder, shock settling in. They came for my baby. They were going to... I know. His voice was rough. I know. But they didn't. You protected her. Footsteps in the hallway. Madame Paksang appeared in the doorway, her silk robe pulled tight, her face carved with fury that made her look like an avenging goddess. She took in the scene, the broken door, the shattered window, blood on the floor, her son holding the sobbing woman and child, and her expression hardened into something absolute. Gather, everyone, she commanded the guards. Every man in this house. Meeting room. Now. She moved to Mariana, cupped the young woman's tear-stained face with surprising gentleness. They underestimated you, she said fiercely. They thought you were weak. They thought a mother alone could be broken. Her eyes blazed. They underestimated a mother's strength and this family's protection. That mistake will be their last. Mariana couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. She just held Zara and let Sim Kang hold them both while the estate erupted into controlled chaos around them. The underground meeting room was a place Mariana had never seen. Reinforced concrete, no windows, a single long table surrounded by hard-faced men. She shouldn't have been there. She should have been upstairs with Zara, who was now sleeping fitfully with Mrs. Seo keeping watch. But Mariana had followed, had stood in the stairwell where she could hear through the partially open door. Because after tonight, she needed to know what happened next. Sim Kang stood at the head of the table, still wearing the clothes splattered with blood, some his, some the intruder's. His voice was controlled. Deadly. They breached our security. They got inside this house. They went for a baby. Each word fell like a hammer. Tell me how. A lieutenant spoke up, older, graying. Inside help. Had to be. They knew patrol schedules, security rotations. Find them, Sim Kang ordered. I want names by sunrise. Another man cleared his throat. Younger, ambitious looking. Sir, perhaps we should consider a different approach. The woman and child, they're the target. If we relocate them somewhere remote, the threat to the organization ends. Several men nodded. Mariana's hands clenched. Relocate them where? Sim Kang's voice was dangerously soft. Somewhere far. America, maybe. Europe. With protection, of course, but away from you, away from here. It removes your weakness. The word hit Mariana like a slap. Weakness. That's what she and Zara were. Then another voice. Colder. The man from the hallway, Dae-jung. Or we could remove the threat permanently. The room went silent. Mariana's blood froze. Explain, Sim Kang said, each word coated in ice. The enemies want leverage against you. The woman and child provide that leverage. If they weren't here, if they weren't breathing, the threat disappears. Clean. Final. Mariana's vision blurred. He was suggesting killing them. Killing her baby. The silence stretched. Then Sim Kang moved. He grabbed Dae-jung by the throat. Slammed him against the wall so hard the concrete cracked. His gun was out. Pressed under the man's chin. Say that again, Sim Kang whispered, voice volcanic with controlled rage. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Dae-jung choked, face turning red. The woman and child under this roof are family. Sim Kang's voice carried to every corner of the room. Anyone who suggests otherwise won't be part of this organization or breathing by morning. Am I making myself clear? No one moved. No one spoke. Mariana Elliott and her daughter are under my absolute protection. They are not weakness. They are not leverage. They are mine. He released Dae-jung, who crumpled. Anyone who touches them, threatens them, or even thinks too hard about them will answer to me personally. Understood? A chorus of, yes, sir, filled the room. Get out, all of you. Find the traitor. Find the people who ordered this. And bring them to me alive. His smile was terrible. I want to have a conversation. The men filed out quickly. Mariana pressed herself against the stairwell wall, heart racing. When Sim Kang emerged moments later, he stopped, saw her standing there. How much did you hear? Enough. Her voice shook. They wanted to kill us. They wanted to send us away. They're not going to do either. Why? The question burst out of her. Why risk everything for us? Your organization, your safety. Your life, why? He moved closer, exhausted and blood-stained and brutally honest. Because when I held your daughter that night in the courtyard, I understood what I've been missing my entire life. Purpose beyond power. Something worth protecting beyond territory. His eyes met hers. And when I look at you, I see something I thought I'd never deserve. Someone brave and fierce and real. Someone who fights for what matters. Mariana's throat tightened. I'm terrified. I know. Not just of them. Of this. Of you. Of what it means if I let myself trust you and you. Her voice broke. My ex-husband promised forever too. He promised to be there, and then Zara cried too much one night and he was gone by morning. I'm not him. How do I know that? Tears spilled over. How do I know you won't wake up one day and decide we're too much trouble, too much risk, too much everything? Sim Kang reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with blood-stained hands. Because trouble and risk and everything is exactly what I want. Because I've lived in a cold world my entire life and you and Zara brought warmth into it. Because... He paused, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. Because I'm falling in love with you. Both of you. And I don't know how to stop. To see... Mariana's breath caught. You don't have to say anything, he continued quickly. I know it's too soon. I know you're scared. I know I'm asking you to trust someone in a world that's tried to kill you twice now. But I need you to know you and Zara aren't weakness. You're the first real thing I've cared about in 20 years. And I will burn this city down before I let anyone hurt either of you. Mariana stood there, trembling, terrified, her heart pulling in two directions. Every logical part of her screamed to run, to take Zara and disappear, to never trust another man who made promises. But she'd seen him tonight. Seen the terror in his eyes when he couldn't find Zara. Felt him shake when he held them. Heard him defend them like they were worth more than his entire empire. I can't promise I won't be scared, she whispered. I'm not asking you to stop being scared. I'm asking you to try. To stay. To let me prove that not all men leave. She looked up at him, this dangerous, powerful, surprisingly gentle man, and made a choice that felt like jumping off a cliff with no idea if there was water below. Okay, she breathed. I'll try. His relief was palpable. He pulled her close, careful of her injuries, and held her like she was something precious, something worth the risk. Upstairs, Zara slept on, unaware that her mother had just chosen to build a new life from the ruins of the old one. And somewhere in the night, enemies learned that targeting a mother and child had just signed their death warrants. 3 days after the attack, Mariana found Sim Kang in his office, the one place in the estate she'd avoided. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights. Dark wood furniture, a desk that had probably witnessed deals she didn't want to know about. He looked up when she entered, surprise flickering across his tired face. Can't sleep? He asked. Zara's finally resting. Mariana closed the door behind her. Mrs. Sio's with her. I needed to talk to you. He stood immediately. Is something wrong? You told me you loved me. The words hung between them. Sim Kang went very still. I did. Did you mean it? Her voice shook. Or was it just something you said in the moment after everything? I meant it. He moved around the desk. Every word. Mariana wrapped her arms around herself. My ex-husband used to say he loved me too. Every morning, he'd kiss Zara's head and tell me we were his whole world. Her laugh was bitter. Then one night she wouldn't stop crying. Colic. And he looked at us like we were strangers, like we'd tricked him into this life he didn't want. He was gone by sunrise. Mariana, what if you leave too? The question came out broken. What if Zara gets attached? What if I get attached and you wake up one day and decide we're not worth the risk, not worth the danger? Sim Kang closed the distance between them, then dropped to his knees in front of her. She gasped. This powerful, dangerous man, kneeling like a supplicant. Look at me, he said quietly. She did. I'm a lot of things. A criminal. A fighter. Someone with blood on his hands who's done things that would make you run if you knew the details. But I don't abandon what I claim. And I'm claiming you both if you'll let me. Tears streamed down her face. How can I trust that? Because I've never had anything worth staying for before. Because the thought of you and Zara not being here makes it hard to breathe. Because, his voice roughened. Because I know what it's like to be abandoned too. My father left when I was 8. Just walked out one day and never came back. I swore I'd never be that man. Mariana's hand trembled as she touched his face. I'm so scared. Then be scared. Be terrified. But be scared here. With me. Where I can prove every day that I'm not going anywhere. He caught her hand. Pressed it to his chest where his heart hammered. You can leave any time. I'll set you up somewhere safe, somewhere far from this world. But God, Mariana, I'm begging you to stay. She looked at him, this impossible man who'd turned her life upside down, and felt something shift inside her. Not the walls crumbling, but a door opening. Just a crack. If I stay, she whispered, if we do this, you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that on the days when this world gets dark, when the violence and danger feel like too much, you won't shut us out. You'll let me in. Let me help carry it. Mariana, I don't want to burden you with. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. That means all of you. The good, the broken, the dangerous, all of it. Her voice strengthened. If I'm going to be yours, you have to be mine too. Completely. Something raw and vulnerable crossed his face. I promise. She leaned down. He rose to meet her. Their kiss was gentle, tentative, weighted with fear and hope, and everything unspoken. His hands cradled her face like she was made of glass. Her fingers gripped his shirt like he might disappear. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Mariana whispered, I'm still terrified. Me too, he admitted. But I'm staying. His smile was small, real, and completely unguarded. Thank God. The next morning, Madame Paksang summoned Mariana to her private sitting room. The older woman sat by the window, sunlight making her look softer, more fragile than usual. Sit, child. Mariana sat, nerves fluttering. Madame Paksang opened a wooden box and pulled out a pendant jade, intricately carved, on a gold chain. It was beautiful and old and obviously precious. This belonged to my daughter, she said quietly. The one I lost. I had it made when she was born. A protection charm. Her eyes glistened. It didn't protect her. But perhaps it will protect you. Ma'am, I can't. You can. You will. Madame Paksang stood, moved behind Mariana, and fastened the chain around her neck. You brought life back into this house. A baby's laughter. A mother's warmth. Hope for a future I thought we'd lost. Mariana touched the pendant, throat tight. You gave me a second chance at the family I lost, the older woman continued. A daughter-in-law. A granddaughter. The sound of small feet running through these halls. She gripped Mariana's shoulders. You saved my life on that platform, yes, but you saved more than that. You saved this family's heart. Mariana turned, tears streaming, and hugged this fierce woman who'd claimed her as family. Madame Paksang held her tight, and for the first time since her own mother died, Mariana felt like she belonged somewhere. That night, Sim Kang found her in the garden, the jade pendant gleaming at her throat. He smiled. It looks good on you. Your mother said it was your sister's. It was. He pulled her close. And now it's yours. Mariana leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the strength of his arms, and made peace with her choice. She'd found her family in the most unlikely place in danger. In darkness. In a world that should have destroyed her. Instead, it gave her everything she'd been missing. 6 months later, spring had transformed the estate gardens into something magical. Cherry blossoms drifted like snow, and Zara, now 2 years old, chased them with delighted squeals. Mama, look! She held up a handful of petals, her mixed features glowing with joy. Beautiful baby. Mariana called from the blanket where she sat with Madame Paksang, practicing Korean pronunciation. Her accent was terrible, but she was trying. No, the older woman corrected gently. The tone rises at the end. Gamsahamnida, Gamsahamnida, Mariana repeated. Better. You'll be fluent by the time you're 70. They both laughed. These mornings had become routine language lessons that turned into cooking lessons that turned into stories about Sim Kang's childhood. How he'd refused to eat vegetables until his mother told him they'd make him strong enough to protect her. How he'd carried a stray cat home and kept it hidden for 2 weeks before being discovered. He was softer then, Madame Paksang said quietly. Before this world hardened him, he's still soft, Mariana said. Just selective about who sees it. The older woman smiled knowingly. Inside the estate, things had changed. The tension had eased. The constant armed presence had been reduced. Sim Kang was restructuring his operations. Mariana didn't know all the details, but she heard enough. Closing the most violent enterprises, redirecting resources, building something different. When she asked him about it one night, he'd taken her hand and led her upstairs to the old nursery. She gasped. The room had been completely transformed. Soft, yellow walls instead of white. Blackout curtains with stars embroidered on them. A reading corner with cushions and shelves already filling with books in English and Korean. The crib had been replaced with a toddler bed shaped like a house. Everything was brighter, safer, more permanent. When did you do this? Mariana breathed. Been working on it for months. Mrs. Seo helped. He watched her face carefully. I'm building an exit. Not for me, maybe, but for her. For Zara, Sim Kang. She deserves better than this world. His voice was rough. She deserves to grow up without guards, without violence, without fear. So I'm making changes. Slowly, carefully, but I'm making them. Mariana turned, cupped his face. You're going to be an incredible father. The word father made him freeze. They hadn't used it yet. He was still Sim Kang to Zara. Still the man who lived in their house and made Mama smile. I don't know how, he admitted quietly. Neither did I. We'll figure it out together. They did. Day by day, moment by moment. Sim Kang taught Zara to clap her hands in rhythm, making up silly songs that had her giggling uncontrollably. He read her bedtime stories in Korean, his voice softening to something gentle. He let her climb on his back like he was a horse, her laughter echoing through the estate. The staff adored her. Hardened men who'd killed without hesitation melted when Zara toddled up with her arms raised, demanding to be held. The cook made special treats just for her. The head of security carried her on his shoulders during garden walks. She'd wrap them all around her tiny finger. One evening, Mariana was preparing dinner in the Kityang Madame Pak Sang's recipe for kimchi jjigae when she heard Zara babbling in the next room. Sim Kang was playing blocks with her on the floor, his suit jacket discarded, tie loosened. Up, Zara demanded, pointing to a block tower. How about you stack it? Sim Kang suggested. She tried, the tower wobbling. When it fell, she looked at him with her big brown eyes and said, clear as day. Papa? The entire room went silent. Sim Kang froze, block in hand. Mariana's breath caught. Zara smiled, completely unaware of the magnitude of what she'd just said. Papa! Up! Sim Kang's eyes filled. He blinked rapidly, jaw working. Then he scooped Zara up, holding her tight against his chest. His voice rough and broken when he finally spoke. Yeah, baby. Papa's here. Papa's got you. Mariana stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face, watching this dangerous man cradle her daughter like she was his entire world. Because she was. They both were. Madame Paksang appeared beside her, pressing a tissue into her hand. He's been waiting for her to say that, the older woman whispered. Hoping. I know, Mariana managed. In the living room, Sim Kang was teaching Zara a Korean word, pointing to himself. Appa. Can you say Appa? Appa, Zara parroted, delighted. That's right, baby. I'm your Appa. He looked up, met Mariana's eyes across the room, and smiled genuinely, completely. A man who'd found everything he'd been missing. And Mariana smiled back, the jade pendant warm against her skin. Her daughter safe in the arms of a man who'd proven, day after day, that love doesn't always come from expected places. Sometimes it comes from train platforms and danger and the courage to trust again. 1 year. 365 days since a crowded train platform changed everything. The Sang family didn't celebrate with fireworks or elaborate parties. Instead, they gathered around a long table in the garden courtyard, cherry blossoms drifting down like benedictions. Zara, now 2.5, with her mother's curls and her own fierce personality toddled between adults, chattering in a mix of English and Korean that made everyone smile. Halmioni, look! She held up a flower to Madame Pak Sang, using the Korean word for grandmother. With perfect ease. Beautiful, my darling, the older woman said, her eyes soft. Just like you. Mariana watched from her seat, the jade pendant gleaming at her throat, her natural hair free and glorious in the spring breeze. She looked different than she had a year ago. Healthier, happier, like someone who'd finally stopped running and started living. Her coral blouse had been replaced by a flowing dress in soft blue. The exhaustion in her eyes had been replaced by peace. Madame Pak Sang caught her looking and smiled with deep satisfaction. This was what she'd seen on that platform. Not just a courageous woman, but the missing piece of their broken family. The meal was abundant traditional Korean dishes alongside Mariana's attempts at cooking, which had gotten better with practice. Laughter flowed freely. Even the guards who stood discreetly at the perimeter looked relaxed. Then Sim Kang stood, and the table went quiet. A year ago today, he began, his voice carrying in the gentle evening air. My mother almost died. A stranger pushed her toward the tracks. The train was coming, and in that split second everything could have ended. Mariana's hand tightened on her glass. But a woman I'd never met, a single mother with a baby, exhausted from her night shift, with every reason to mind her own business, didn't hesitate. She threw herself into danger to save a stranger. His eyes found Mariana's. That woman changed everything. Zara toddled over to her mother, sensing something important. Mariana lifted her onto her lap. Mariana Elliott didn't just save my mother that day. She saved this family. She brought light into a house that had been dark for too long. She brought laughter, hope, purpose. His voice roughened. She taught me that strength isn't just force. It's loyalty. It's love. It's fighting for what matters even when you're terrified. He moved around the table, and Mariana's breath caught as he knelt beside her chair. Zara's eyes went wide. Appa, she exclaimed, delighted by this new game. Sim Kang smiled at her, then looked up at Mariana with everything he felt written plainly on his face. Mariana Elliott, you saved my mother's life, but you gave me mine back. You and Zara showed me what family really means, what love looks like when it's real, when it's earned, when it's worth everything. He pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, 3 stones set in delicate gold. Diamond for you, sapphire for Zara, emerald for me. 3 stones, 1 family. Mariana's vision blurred with tears. Will you marry me? His voice shook slightly. Not because my mother ordered it a year ago, though she was right. Not because of danger or obligation. Because I love you. Because I want to be Zara's father and your husband. Truly. Completely. Forever. Zara, sensing the importance of the moment, toddled over and wrapped her small arms around Sim Kang's leg, pressing her face against his knee. Appa, she said softly, like a benediction. Mariana laughed through her tears, one hand covering her mouth, the other holding her daughter's hand. Only if you promise me one thing. Anything, he said immediately. Promise me that on the hard days, and there will be hard days, you won't shut us out. If I'm going to be your wife, I want all of you. The good, the bad, the broken. No walls, no secrets about what you're carrying. His eyes glistened. I promise on everything I have, everything I am, you'll have all of me. Always. Then yes. Her voice broke. Yes. I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled both her and Zara into his arms. Mariana buried her face in his shoulder, laughing and crying at once, while Zara patted both their faces, thoroughly confused but happy. Madame Pak Sang stood, clapping, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. Finally. I've been waiting a year for this. Mother. You ordered it the day we met, Sim Kang said, laughing. And I was right, wasn't I? She moved to them, pulling Mariana up and holding her tight. Welcome to the family, daughter. Officially, the household staff applauded. Even the stoic guards cracked smiles. Zara, not understanding but caught up in the excitement, clapped her little hands. Yay! Yay! Appa, as the sun set over the estate, painting everything gold and pink, Mariana looked at her new family, this impossible, complicated, perfect family, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Home. She was home. She thought about the exhausted single mother she'd been a year ago, pushing a stroller through a train station, barely holding her life together. That woman had saved a stranger without thinking, never knowing it would save her right back. She'd been abandoned by the man who promised forever. She'd been broken and scared and convinced she'd never trust again. But she'd been wrong, because sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another. Sometimes being left behind means you're free to find where you actually belong.